ambilililili, gua gua, ciri cirician, dindirindina. Is this just nonsense? Would you believe this is the text of a serenade? Hi, I'm Marta Rook. I'm a singer and I specialize in early music. And today I would like to introduce you to the peculiar world of the Moresca song, a unique gem from Italian Renaissance. Moresca songs are short, simple, comical compositions meant to be performed by a few singers. The outstanding trait is that the characters of these songs are all African slaves living in Naples. There was a huge community of people of African origins living there because of the slave trade. And the Neapolitan society of the Renaissance showed to be particularly curious about their way of living, their peculiar social dynamics, and their hybrid language. Thus, in the middle of the 16th century, the Moresca songs were born and generated a musical and theatrical tradition that lasted nearly 2 centuries. The original Moresca songs were anonymous compositions, but they achieved such an enormous popularity that eventually the most famous composers of the times published their own covers of the songs. The 2 main characters of the Moresca songs are Giorgio and Lucia. Now, you would expect these songs to recount their lives as slaves. And yet, the Moresca tell us instead how these characters live and express themselves in their free time. The core of the Moresca cycle is in fact a simple love story. Giorgio is in love with Lucia, and he tries really hard to impress her with flattering speeches and big gestures, offering her anything from golden shoes to promises of freedom. And this is where our musical journey starts. In the song Lucia Cielu, with a serenade, singing sweet melodies about courtly love under a lady's window, accompanied by the noble sound of the lute, all in the attempt to win her heart. It's a typical romantic gesture from Naples, although Giorgio gives it his own spin. He's not singing to Lucia alone, and he's not playing the lute for that matter. He's surrounded by all his friends and comrades, and they're speaking a weird language. For years, musicologists thought it to be nonsense, a simple mockery of the slave speech. And so did I. You can imagine how it posed a problem for me. I didn't know how to approach the repertoire, even though I was extremely curious. And even more daunting, I didn't know how to present it to a modern audience, such as yourselves. And that is when I encountered the work of Gianfranco Salvatore, an Italian ethnomusicologist who's conducting truly innovative research on the Moresca song that completely changed my understanding of the repertoire. From his studies, especially from the articles analyzing the language in Lucia Cielu, I learned that the so-called nonsense was in fact an actual language spoken in Central Africa, Kanuri, the slave's native language. Well, now we can translate Giorgio's serenade as a beautiful, colorful scene where he's surrounded by all his friends and they're not playing the lute, but they're playing percussions and dancing, trying to help him win over Lucia. So let's hear the beginning of Lucia Cielu as it is performed by me and my friends from Passi Sparsi Ensemble.
Non conosci Giorgia tua, Cristofora tua.
Thank you. Colorful, right? But what will Lucia answer? Will it be a yay or a nay? Well, to understand the next part of the song, we need to do a little more decoding. Despite the confusing language, what happens next is clearly a big fight. Although for years, nobody could understand what Giorgio and Lucia were fighting about. And yet, the answer was in their own words. Thanks to the investigative mind of Gianfranco Salvatore, we now know that Giorgio and Lucia are of different ethnicities. Giorgio is from the imperialist country of Borno, and is very proud of his origins. Lucia was from a minor village, which was probably subjected to raids and violence by the Borno Empire. As soon as she gets to speak, she rejects him firmly and insults his patriotic pride. Giorgio refers to himself as Burno Guallà, a true Bornu for Allah. Lucia mocks him by calling him Guala Burno, thus mangling his ethnic affirmation. Let's hear it.
Scava canazza, batti con Dio, non ce ne leke per Santa Marina. Su, tiri qua, a Lucia mia. Giorgia sfogata, tiscia lo lieto, dici sudata quando la vede, come Tonina. Burno gualla, scava canazza.
Well, you might think no relationship could ever recover from that. Well, instead, Giorgio and Lucia end up together in the end. Not in the original song cycle, where they go on and find other lovers, but the literary tradition gives their love story a happy ending. So, what is the takeaway from this weird story from the Renaissance? Even though the Moresca songs are a product of a society which supported slavery, imperialism, cultural dominance, we would be wrong to dismiss it as just a collection of offensive racial stereotypes. In fact, it portrays a unique process of linguistic integration, of assimilation between two cultures. On the one hand, by incorporating the Kanuri, the slaves' native language, into the songs, the authors showed a certain degree of curiosity, of knowledge of their characters' culture. On the other hand, the slaves are portrayed while embodying typical Italian behaviors, such as a serenade, thus maybe becoming more relatable to their intended audience. Well, of course, we will never know what were the intentions behind this tradition. But what is more important for us artists today is that we always have a choice to use comedy to build proximity rather than distance. To represent diversity through masks allows us, by wearing them, to incorporate that diversity and to recognize the similarities within ourselves. Thank you.